This morning, before I did my breath work, I seen this ad. I don't exactly know what it was about, but I heard it mention the law of sustainment, and I was curious what that was, so I watched it for a few seconds. And from what I understand, it's basically you cannot continue and sustain the actions, the habits that you're doing if it clashes with your identity. And it made me think, maybe this is why so many people struggle with the gym. They just see themselves as lazy, out of shape, overweight, especially those that have quit. They've started the gym so many times, they do it every year and they quit because over time, from doing that over and over again, they create this identity: I'm a quitter. And so eventually they'll quit again and again and again. Maybe this is why so many people struggle with addiction, struggle with quitting addiction, struggle with getting sober. And maybe this is why I didn't, because I got sober relatively easy, because a lot of people would say, oh, it's so hard, it's this, it's that, you need to go to rehab, you need to do this. I mean, yeah, it was difficult. I'm not going to say it just fell apart. It took me maybe about 6 months. To be fair, I was only doing drugs and drink and all that for about 2 years. Well, I started partying, going out when I was 15, but I was really addicted from the ages of about 17 to 19. But to me, it always felt like it just fell away. And that ad, that got me thinking, because see, I've always been a delusional motherfucker. Ever since I was young, I always thought I was the main man. For a very long time, I was seriously convinced that I was like the main character in life, that just the world revolves around me. Me and my friend, we used to talk about, the story, like the universe was like this story and it was all about me and him, and we used to come up with these stupid theories. But yeah, I was genuinely convinced the world revolved around me. Like, I guess so many other young people, they thought that too. But I was always convinced, yeah, I was this main man, the main character. I was strong. I was always going to be successful. I always convinced myself, oh yeah, I was going to be rich. Even now, I still have convinced myself that eventually I'm going to be successful. Only this time it's less delusional because I'm actually doing things to get me there. I've actually got good habits, but even when I was a fucking drug addict, I was convinced that I was going to be some Pablo Escobar type criminal type, drug dealer. That's maybe why I got into doing drugs in the first place, subconsciously. Because, I grew up watching a lot of crime shows, 12, 13, 14. And then I started to want to do that too. And then I started to go out. I hadn't really dealt yet. So maybe my brain was like, in the back of my mind, my brain was like, maybe I should like try the drugs, know what I'm doing, get experience. And then I did sell weed for a little bit, but it never really worked out because I was just that much of an addict. It actually stopped me from achieving my goals, which is maybe a good thing in this case, because I think if I had done that, if I'd, caught my achievements, it would just made me deeper and made my addiction worse. But I do think this delusion, this identity that I've had, is maybe what helped me get sober and helped it fall away. Because I've always felt like it was, I was being guided by God, and maybe I was, because I felt like I was just pushed in that direction and there was no choice, but I had to get sober. But maybe that's because it was clashing with my identity. I wanted success, I wanted to be great. All I was doing was just getting high in some small town in Northern Ireland that nobody knows. I was just a loser, a drug addict, like so many people are. But that maybe hurt. That maybe, and definitely did, because I was so depressed at this time. Of course, neurologically, drugs, they'll fuck with your brain. But maybe it hurt so much. Maybe I was so depressed that I wanted to die because I was living a life that wasn't congruent to who I believed I was. And so I had to get sober. I was the first one out of my friends to drop the drugs, and I was the only one to get completely sober, to drop drink too. Most of them, they dropped the hard drugs, yeah, maybe they still smoked and smoked weed and drunk. But I had to stop all of it, because maybe I had this different vision for myself, and I still do, because I would rather die than just live some normal life, just working in 9 to 5. There's no life. I'm worth more than that, and you are too. No, of course I don't know this for sure. What I do know is I was addicted to drugs, and compared to what a lot of people say, I got sober relatively easy on my own, and that's all I know. It might work for you, it might not, but what I do know is that your identity can really have an effect. I mean, that is why I went there in the first place. I had this strong identity to be different, but in a bad way. Of course, it ended up being in a bad way. I was watching a lot of crime shows. I was seeing people on social media partying, going out, and I got jealous when I was young, so I started doing that, and it led to me going out, me partying, me doing drugs. But a lot of how I've been is due to my identity. And the only way to change your identity is from the things you do, to be honest. Like, it's pretty obvious when you look at it, your habits really define who you are. So you need to start doing hard shit, doing shit that you want to do. You want to start a business, you have to start working on a business. You want to be jacked, you need to start being jacked. If you want to be the kind of person that is disciplined, strong, you got to do stuff like that. So go to the gym, meditate, read, whatever. That's the stuff I do, that's the stuff I enjoy. I enjoy training, I enjoy meditating, reading, because I feel like it gets me closer every single time to who I truly want to be, to who I truly am inside. And that is why stuff like doing drugs, video games back when I was even younger, eventually it caused me pain, it caused this tension because it clashed with my identity. And honestly, when I was doing drugs, when I was going out partying, even just a little bit, but of course when I was doing it all the time, doing drugs every day, that was when my identity was the worst. I mean, I did stuff like stole from my friends, stole from my mum. You know, when I was drunk one time, I tried to stab my own friend because he called me a bitch. Only place he called me a bitch. Now, of course, I was drunk too. But even now, I don't think if I was drunk, I would be that kind of person drunk. I'm not going to find out because drink is one of the worst drugs you can do. Fuck that shit. But my mind was just scrambled back then. You know, as I said, I wanted to be a fucking kingpin, a drug dealer. I was okay with taking someone's life in my head anyway. I don't know, I never really found out. I was okay with hurting other people. It's okay with doing drugs, wasting my life, because it really changes who you are. Maybe this is why they say drugs are gateway drugs, because they slowly but surely change your mind. I mean, I've seen it myself. At the start, I only said I would only drink and smoke weed. Eventually, slowly but surely, I started adding drugs to that list, to that repertoire that I would actually do. Kept breaking my word again and again till the point where I basically do anything. Now, I never done heroin or crack, but no, there's no doubt if I continued down that road, eventually I would have done that shit too, because it just changes your brain, changes your identity, man. It's so destructive because it just steals your focus for what you actually want in your life, your goals. As I said, you know, I wanted to be a drug dealer and I was too busy doing drugs, so I never really done it. Of course, in that case, it was a good thing, but it will take away your drive to go towards your goals. Because firstly, all you're focusing on now is like, oh, what drug am I going to do? Where am I going to go out in the weekend? Instead of focusing on how you need to grow, but also that pain that you're avoiding, that you're running from, that discomfort that you're escaping from, which of course, you cannot lie to yourself. It's just escapism. That pain is actually the motivation you're asking for. And yet you're running from it. People think motivation is all this, yeah, woo! I'm hyped, but it's not. You know, if you ever seen some videos of David Goggins, you'll understand this. Motivation is not this happy, you know, joyful looking thing. I mean, sometimes it can be, but most of the time that's the after. That's the aftermath. Most of the time motivation is that fire under your ass. You need to fucking just move and go, that you're not comfortable with where you're at in life and you need to change. But then when you're escaping, when you're dull in that, you don't have that drive. You don't want to change. That's probably the biggest reason why it's so destructive. Well, of course, it fucks up your mental health, your physical health. That's the obvious one. Everybody knows that. It's not good for you physically and mentally. I mean, when you're young, though, you don't really pay attention to that too. Either you always think, oh, never be me. Never be me. And then I started getting fucking stomach pains. All over my stomach, all over my abdomen. Just pains all the time, just constantly. Like a dull ache, and sometimes it'd be sharp. And sometimes I get these, I call it the zaps. My friend got these too. It'd be like an electric shock, just through my organs or wherever the fuck. It scared the life out of me. But we always think, oh, I'll never be me, you'll never be me. But when you're doing these destructive habits, it will be you, trust me. Nobody's free from this. It's maybe like karma, you know? You're fucking up your body, your life, your opportunity that you've been given. The gift that is that pain, that discomfort. You're saying, fuck that, I don't want that, God. You're asking, please, give me the strength, give me motivation. I need motivation. And you're saying, oh, fuck that. Motivation's scary. It's not comfortable. And that's your punishment. That's your karma. For not listening, for not growing, for not changing. Look, if you're doing drugs, even if you're just going out and partying and you want to stay the same, that's fine. You do what you want to do. Maybe you're just a loser. Maybe that's your identity. You're a loser, waster. You were just born to be like this, and you're fine with that. And you're just going to live your whole life like most other people, just living for the weekend. Maybe you become a full-on drug addict. Maybe you are right now. That's fine. If you want to be a fucking loser, that's fine. I know I'm not. I know I never will be again. You're better than that bag. You're better than that ball.